They told you to open your third eye. But they never told you how. Not really. Not the real way. The ancients knew it. The mystics preserved it. The Hermetics encoded it in symbols so complex, most gave up trying to read them. But buried in forgotten texts and whispered through mystery schools. There is one method so precise, so disruptive, that it was hidden from the public for centuries. Because once you activate your pineal gland the right way, your perception fractures, and the illusion of this world begins to melt. This isn't about raising your vibration, or thinking positive, or wearing crystals on your forehead. This is biology. This is frequency. This is forbidden science woven into ancient ritual. And once you understand how Hermetics did it, you'll see why it was hidden. You'll also see why you've always felt different. Let's start with the one thing they never say out loud. Your pineal gland is not a metaphor. It is a literal stargate inside your brain, located deep in the center of your skull, shaped like a pine cone. This small organ holds the power to interface with other dimensions. Not through imagination, but through internal alchemy. It contains rods and cones, like the retina in your eyes. It produces DMT, the molecule released at birth, death, and moments of spiritual ecstasy. It sits between the left and right hemispheres of the brain, the gateway between logic and spirit, science and soul. But erase the part they never told you. The pineal gland was meant to be active. All the time. Not just in dreams. The Hermetics knew this. But they also knew the world was being tampered with. Fluoride. Frequency. Food. Fear. All designed to calcify, to deaden, to silence the pineal. Because a silenced pineal is an obedient mind. So they guarded the secret. Encoded it in symbols. Encrypted it in geometry. Protected it behind sacred rituals no outsider would recognize. But it's here. Still here. And it's time to remember. Because this isn't just about seeing visions. This is about restoring the bridge between your human self and your divine self. The pineal is the throne of light. It's not just where you see. It's where you receive. Visions. Downloads. Blueprints. Contact. Hermetic adepts didn't just meditate. They performed specific internal alignments. A formula known as the reversal current. A breath plus sound plus gaze technique that turns the flow of energy upward, forcing the dormant pineal to pulse, vibrate, and then ignite. When it activates, you feel it. A pressure in the skull. A hum behind the eyes. A flash of light inside, not out. You blink, but you're already seeing something else. This is just the beginning. The Hermetic adepts didn't just pray or believe. They engineered their awakening. They used the body as a temple, the breath as a bridge, and the pineal gland as a divine receiver. A biological satellite tuned to frequencies outside the limits of normal perception. They didn't wait to see God. They dialed in. So what was this forbidden method? To understand it, you have to forget what modern spirituality told you. The Hermetics weren't chasing bliss. They were chasing truth. And they were ruthless about it. They practiced in dark rooms. Hours. Stillness. Eyes turned inward, not shut, but focused. Upward. Not up to the ceiling. Up into the space behind the forehead. Between the brows. Above the nose. Deep into the skull. This is the first step, reversal of external attention. Most people are addicted to outward light. Phones. Screens. Movement. Stimulation. But the Hermetics believe that external light blinds you to inner vision. To truly awaken the pineal, you must starve the outer senses. And that's what they did. They practiced in caves, stone chambers, temples with no windows. They fasted, not just from food, but from sensation. So that when the pineal gland finally flickered, it wasn't lost in noise. Then came the second layer, the vibration. A very specific sound. Not just chanting Om. Not random syllables. A vowel sequence tuned to the natural harmonic of the pineal itself. Passed from teacher to student, not written, spoken in breath, in tone, in silence. Modern scientists have accidentally touched it. They call it binaural entrainment or vagal tone resonance. But the Hermetics called it something else. The voice of the inner flame. When you chant the right sound, in the right posture, in full stillness, the vibration bypasses the ears. It rises into the skull, like a bell inside the brain. It massages the pineal. It stirs it. It awakens it. You begin to feel something impossible to explain. A cold warmth. A light with no source. A pulse that's not a heartbeat, but ancient memory, reactivating. This is where most people stop. Because here, things begin to shift. Reality bends. The lines blur between inside and out. You hear things, but not through ears. You see forms, but not with eyes. Your pineal becomes a lens. Not of imagination, but of reception. And what you begin to receive is terrifying to the ego. Because it's not just beauty. It's not angels and sparkles. It's truth. Raw. Unfiltered. Uncensored. You see how your thoughts shape reality. You feel how your fears magnetize your life. You understand that this world, this very world, is a projection layered over something deeper, older, cosmic. You don't believe anymore. You know. Deep inside your skull, there is a triangle of light. It's not metaphor. It's anatomy. It's esoteric architecture. The pineal gland sits between the pituitary and the hypothalamus. 3 points forming a sacred triangle. The Hermetics called this the throne. The seat of the divine observer. The chamber where God meets the human form. They believe this triangle creates a resonance chamber. A sacred field of electromagnetic light. That when activated, generates access to higher realms. And that's not just mysticism. Modern neuroscience has begun to catch up. When this triangle lights up, brainwaves shift into gamma, the highest frequency humans can access. Perception expands. The sense of self dissolves. And something else, something far greater, begins to move through you. But here's the secret most never hear. The pineal gland is a transmitter and a receiver. And when Hermetic adepts activated it, they weren't just looking inward. They were connecting outward. To what? To the cosmic field of intelligence. What the ancients called the Akashic. The divine mind. The Logos. It's all the same thing. A lattice of light that holds all memory, all pattern, all potential. The pineal gland, when fully awakened, doesn't just produce DMT. It becomes an antenna, receiving information that the ordinary mind can't access. Visions. Downloads. Symbols. Patterns. Entire blueprints of energy systems that don't exist yet in human language. This is why the Hermetics never spoke in plain terms. They used symbols, myth, and geometry. Not to confuse, but because the truths they carried couldn't be encoded in words. And this is why the method was hidden. Not because it was evil, but because most minds couldn't hold what it revealed. So when the triangle activates, when light floods the throne, you are no longer bound by the five senses. You begin to operate from the sixth sense. But even that term is incomplete. Because what awakens is not just a sense. It is a remembering. You remember what you are. Not a body. Not a story. Not a thought. But a fractal of light cast into form. And the pineal is the mirror, through which that light begins to recognize itself again. Now erase what you weren't told. The Hermetics believed the pineal could become permanent. Not just a glimpse. Not just a high. But a constant connection. A bridge that never closes. They didn't want flashes of divine insight. They wanted to become living oracles. Waking. Walking. Receiving. Transmitting. All the time. And this is what they achieved. Through a ritual few ever dared to complete. There is a reason this ritual was called forbidden. Not because it was evil, but because it demanded everything. The Hermetics knew. You cannot open the eye of God with a closed heart. You cannot unlock divine perception while hiding from your own truth. Because once the pineal is activated, once the triangle of light floods with current, you don't just see beauty. You see everything. Your shadows. Your fears. Your false identities. Your unhealed memories. And the untrained mind. It shatters. That's why the Hermetic method always began with inner purification. Not to be moral, but to become clear enough to hold the light without distortion. So what did the full method look like? Step 1. Stillness. True, cellular stillness. The kind that comes only after prolonged silence, not just outside, but within. Step 2. Gaze. Not with the eyes, but with attention. Turned inward. Focus gently on the center of the skull. Not forcing. Just witnessing. Step 3. Breath. Deep. Circular. Rooted. With each inhale, energy moves up the spine. With each exhale, it spirals through the crown. Step 4. Vibration. A specific sound, ancient vowel tones. Vibrated into the nasal cavity. Sent through the bone into the pineal chamber. Until it hums. Step 5. Intention. This is the most important. Not to seek power. Not to seek visions. But to become a vessel of truth. Because the pineal will answer. But it will only reflect what you are ready to receive. And when it opens fully, you enter the living temple. The world behind the world. Not a dream. Not fantasy. But a realm of pure intelligence, alive with geometry, color, frequency, and memory. Time stretches. Space folds. You become transparent. And what you receive changes you forever. You may be given symbols. You may be shown timelines. You may hear messages, not in words, but in knowing. And when you return, nothing is the same. Because your perception has widened. Because you've remembered something no one can take away. Because now, when you close your eyes, you see more than most do with them open. This is why the Hermetic adepts were feared. Not because they controlled others, but because they were no longer controllable. They saw through illusion. They moved by intuition. They operated from a dimension most people deny even exists. And now, so can you. This is not fantasy. This is your biology. This is your legacy. You were never meant to stay blind. You were meant to wake up. Not just spiritually, but electrically. Physically. Energetically. Cosmically. And the pineal is your door. So if this stirred something in you, don't ignore it. Watch this again. Let it imprint. Let it echo. Because this isn't entertainment. This is initiation. And you wouldn't be here if your system wasn't already. Remembering. More is coming. More truths. More tools. More transmissions. So subscribe. Stay close. And let this light keep unfolding in you. You are not crazy. You are awakening. And the gland they tried to silence is already speaking again.